What's up, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Boosted Knowledge. Inaugural, it's ironic that it's Inauguration Day. Shout out to President Trump. Boosted Knowledge is this thing that me and Nate came up with that is one episode every once in a while where I boost your knowledge on things. The first thing that I'm going to go through with you guys is why is the SN95 the perfect first project car for anybody in any kind of motorsport? And I'm going to tell you guys why. I can't believe we're driving this thing. So some history about me and my experience and what I've had. So I've built a couple of SN95s now. I have two of them, happens to be. So call my opinion a little bit biased, but I have that opinion for a reason. And I got some facts for you guys to back it up that I think you guys will enjoy. Let's start with the Fox body, because you can't even talk about the SN95 without talking about the Fox body, who is the predecessor, right? So Fox bodies were made from 1979 to 1993. Came with AOD automatic transmission and a T5 for stick shift. The most common option, or most popular option among enthusiasts, was the 5.0 302 small block Ford. Famous, infamous engine. I love them. I use them all the time. The engine in Blueberry is an 8.2 deck based engine. The engine that's in my 1995 Mustang is a 302. Great engines, love them. Some other options that they had was a 2.3 and the 3.8 V6. Less popular options. The 2.3 has a ton of fans out there and they've got a crazy aftermarket already for them. Well, I shouldn't say already because it's been around for 40 years, 30 years now, but you get the point. Believe it or not, between 1979 and 1993, there were 2.6 million Fox bodies that were made. And the SN95, years after that, there was only 1.5 million made. But the reason why the SN95, I think, is a little bit better is because you go to the track, how many dang Fox bodies do you see out at track? It's just ridiculous. Not that you don't see a ton of SN95s either, but it's one of the things where there's slightly less SN95s, and I like the way that they look a little bit better when they're done right. So that's my reasoning behind why I like the SN95s a little bit better. Realistically, if you take away the round body style, 79 to 2004 Mustangs, 100% the same. For the most part. I mean, there's engine and transmission differences, but the chassis, they're the same. Hard components are basically all the same. So in combination between Fox bodies and SN95, so it'd be 79 to 2004, there are over 5 million of these cars that were made. Hence, why there's so many parts that are available for all of these cars. It's chassis components, engine components, drivetrain components, you name it, it's all available for the most part. You can get about anything for these cars, and you can get them cheap. And to touch back on the topic of production numbers, just for reference, there are as many Fox bodies and SN95s as there are Ford Crown Victorias. Don't get any ideas, Cletus, because I want to try and maybe keep some of these cars. But the number one reason on my list of reasons why the SN95 is the perfect first project car is because of how much these cars cost. They are dirt cheap, especially right now. We're in what I might call like an SN95 recession because they're just insanely cheap right now. You can get super clean ones for a decent price, and you can get really ratty ones for super, super cheap. And actually what I want to do is I want to show you guys. So I'll pull up Facebook Marketplace real quick, and I'm going to show you guys exactly the kind of cars that you can buy for so little money. All right, so let's look up, let's go with GT because we don't want any V6 cars. The V6 cars, I'm not going to lie, guys, are the only thing they're good for is the chassis, and you're just going to swap a V8 in it anyways. The very first one that pops up, it's funny that this pops up because I see this guy in the summer all the time. This red car with the white wheels on it, super clean. 96, so a 96 model has the 4.6 overhead cam V8. 6500 OBO, super clean. It's already got some work done to it. Let's find another one in here. This is a V8 car. I actually had messaged this guy before because I was looking at this before I actually bought Cherry. This one is not as clean. This one's got a little bit of damage to it. 4,500 bucks. Honestly, this one's probably worth about $3,000. Okay, this one's 10,500. This one looks like it's in brand new condition. So basically what I'm trying to show you guys here is that you can find these cars everywhere. And I mean, the list just goes on and on. I'm just scrolling here and it's car after car after car. Median price range in this area is 1,500 to about 6 grand is about the average of what you're gonna find for these cars. At that price range, you're getting into something that's V8, tons of parts availability, cheaper than a Fox body, because we can actually look Fox bodies up and I'll show you guys. Fox bodies, especially the notchbacks, are insanely expensive right now. So here we got a notch that's or just a roller for like 5 grand. Like I said, you can buy an entirely new running car like this for less than what you can get a roller hatch. Let's keep scrolling here. 10 grand. That one's pretty clean. It might be worth 10 grand, but and we just keep going down here and you can see that there's a pretty clear price divide between a Fox body and an SN95. Now, Fox bodies are getting a little bit more expensive just because people want them a little bit more and they're more frequently used as drag cars. And as they're getting older, they're becoming the next generation of classic cars. So that's kind of why the value is there as it is. Next up on the list, we got suspension design. Suspension design is a key factor on these SN95s Fox bodies. 79-04, the chassis, like I mentioned earlier, are basically all identical. The only difference is they've got facelifted versions and different body styles, a little bit different weights. So like Fox body's a little bit lighter, but the chassis are all the same. And the way that these suspensions are designed is with if you imagine what a four-link looks like, it's somewhat like a four-link. It's not a four-link design. I'll have Nate put up a picture of a four-link right here and a picture of a factory Mustang suspension design right here. Basically, it somewhat is, I would dare call it a factory four-link, but the way that Ford has those bars set up, it is almost perfect to get down about any surface up to a certain point. So like I know a lot of guys that are running deep into the fours with factory suspension, Mustang suspension. So it is undoubtedly a proven setup with very minimal work to get down the track. Reason number 3 is going to be parts availability. And this actually goes back to what we talked about earlier with why or how there were so many produced. Because there were so many produced, they became cheaper, right? We talked about that. And because they became cheaper and people started using them to build race cars, a huge aftermarket came around for them. You can basically go to UPR's website. I work with UPR a lot on my suspension stuff. You can find about any nut and bolt thing that you want for your car. If you have a 79-04 Mustang especially, just go on UPR's website. You can get control arms, K-members, all drop-in stuff at a pretty decent price. So parts availability on these cars is a key factor on why I think 79-04 cars especially, this is more pertaining to SN95. You could make an argument that the Fox body has a little bit more parts availability just because there actually has been more Fox bodies produced than SN95s and it's a whole thing. But for the most part, 79-04, we're just gonna lump them all into the same category. Parts availability for those cars is just off the chain insane. And then finally, we've got reason number 4, why I think the SN95 is the best first project car. Reason number 4 is ease to work on. And these cars, I'm telling you, unless like, you know, I live in Michigan, we live in the Rust Belt where like everything that's a Michigan car that's been driven in the winter is just, don't even bother working out, you're gonna have to cut everything off. For the most part though, if you get a car from the South or something that's clean or has been taken care of, you can work on these cars so easy with so little effort. A good example of that would be I'm working on Cherry and pretty much all the work that I've done on Cherry has been just completely in my garage with diesel heater, a small toolbox with a 90 or 130 piece or whatever Harbor Freight toolkit and an air compressor and some jacks. That's all that I have at my home garage and that's all that I really use to even work on Cherry. Ease to work on for certain. In fact, that's actually part of the reason why I'm working on Cherry just at my garage instead of trying to bring it here and making room here is because I would like to kind of almost prove a point to you guys that like these cars are so easy to work on, especially at an entry level, that you don't need a big fancy shop to work on it to get it done. I'm just working on it at the garage. And maybe the 5th reason, if not an honorable mention, is the versatility of this chassis. People use these cars for everything. And I mean everything. Primarily they're used for drag racing, not gonna lie, that's like their forte, so to speak. Other uses, people use them for autocross, people use them for drifting, people daily drive them, like Canyon Carver cars, stuff like that. You can do just about anything with this chassis. It is extremely versatile. And I think that about wraps up the list for now. But first, let's go give you guys a recap on my SN95 so I can show you a little bit more about my experience, what I've had with my cars. We have the Cherry, mint condition. Well, I don't know about mint, but in condition, 1995 Mustang GT. This car is a prime example of somebody's first project car that they're starting on right now. Now, this isn't my first project car. I've had tons of different project cars, but this is the next one, and I'm really excited about it. This car, to break it down real quick for you guys who don't know about this car, this is a factory 5.0 302 small block Ford, TFI ignition. This particular one has had like the AC deleted and some other miscellaneous crap. T5 5-speed transmission, 4-hard transmission, shifting gears. You already know. Good job, Nate.
Dude, it's so dark in there.
It is dark in there. But man, these cars just with such minimal effort can look so cool, handle good. Probably not as good as like, you know, some of the import stuff, but it's got a big V8 in it. Well, 302 cubic inches, that was a big V8 back then, I guess. With such minimal effort, these cars can look really good. Like this car, for example, all it's got is just wheels, tires, coilovers, and that's it cosmetically. Other than that, this thing is 100% stock outside. And I think it's a good looking car, so.
That's really all that matters. Right?
That's really all that matters. All that matters is that you have something you think looks cool. And I think the car looks cool. Most other people tend to agree with me when I show it to them, but. And another reason why the SN95 is the very greatest first project car for most people, I'd say all people, is look at this interior, guys. Just take a look around at what you're sitting in. This is prime 1990s sports car interior. Just all the round shapes, nice, and it's pretty ergonomic. I mean, I have some aftermarket stuff. I have an aftermarket seat and steering wheel and whatever, but for the most part, these cars are really good from the factory. They're comfortable to sit in. Like I've road tripped in not this exact car, but cars like this, and it's really not that bad. You know, everybody's got their own taste. Some people like the boxiness of the Fox body style, but I like the way that this dash looks, the way that it lays out. Just one of the maybe not key styling features of this car, but it's a feature that I think is notable, and I want to throw it in there. You know, I really like Old Cherry. I really enjoy working on it. It's a simple, fun car, but it's not my favorite. This is my favorite car. This is Old Blueberry. You guys know and love her. This is like the, I guess you could call it the main car on the channel. As you can see, this is not too, no, it's completely different than the other car, but some similar features. This VFN fiberglass dash, notice this is actually a factory style dash. This is a good example of a part that you can just buy from VFN. You can buy, actually from VFN, you can get entire fiberglass bodies from them. You can get fiberglass hoods, bumpers, doors, deck lids, anything you can imagine. Like I said, the parts availability for these things is just off the chain. This car, just a quick recap for you guys if you haven't seen it, pop out here. This car obviously has been heavily modified, and you'll notice it's missing something right here, missing a power plant. That's because if you haven't watched my other videos, it's because I'm building the engine. If you haven't watched them, go check them out. This car is actually a 1996 car, but at this point, to the point where I have this car, there are absolutely no differences between 94, 95 through 98, because I've stripped every single factory component out of this car. The only thing that's factory that's left is actually the bare chassis. So it has 100% factory style suspension on this car. I believe that is a QA1 K-member and control arm setup. This K-member actually came with the car when I got it. Tube front end, factory suspension in the rear as well. And I've been going somewhat fast with this. I'm trying to actually go 480s is what my plan is with this thing, factory suspension, so keep that in mind. Transmission for this car is a Turbo 400 built by Rosler. It's got a Moser Ford 9-inch rear end in it with a carbon fiber PST drive shaft, 750 cage that Bob Miller helped me on, just universal radiator. These cars, like I said earlier, and I'll mention it again, are so easy to work on that most of this car actually was built when I was like 16 to 19, like real young. And I was helping, well, I was working on it with my dad. My dad was helping me work on it. a lot of this stuff having been done when I was 16 to 19, and I know a lot more now, probably needs to be redone. I mean, some of the fab work that I did was a little lackluster, but I think everything's held up fine. I've never had any cracks or any issues. So at one point I do want to redo the car eventually, but not anytime soon because it's a huge undertaking. But like I said, this car is basically my favorite. I like it a little bit more than Cherry so far, for now. Actually, probably forever, because this is actually my first race car and first car that I ever owned. So this has a special place in my heart right here. But that's about it for the cars that I own. Thanks for watching the inaugural episode of Boosted Knowledge, where I boost your knowledge. And something that I want to do with this quick little series is I want to answer your guys' questions. So if you guys would leave me a comment down below, what do you want to know about? How can I boost your knowledge? I'm Kyle. Thanks for watching the channel.